My name's Wes, and I'm a Nintendo junkie.
Hey, paisanos, it's the Super Video Game Super Show.
That's not even the name of the fucking show. I was born in 1985. I was raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've been playing Nintendo ever since I can remember. My earliest memories, I've always had a Nintendo in the house. You know, I just spend my days and nights after school playing, you know, Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, some Karate Kid. I had Mission Impossible, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. One of my favorite games was Bart versus the Space Mutants. That definitely has a lot of memories. I remember one time specifically, my mom had grounded me to my room, and I was so upset about it. Like, I was really pissed off that I went into my room and I cut the cords to my Nintendo controller, thinking, haha, now you gotta buy me a new one. But I really didn't think it through, because she basically said, you know what, your ass ain't getting shit. So you know, I wasn't able to play Nintendo for like a couple months. Maybe it was a couple weeks, I don't know. When you're a kid, you don't really have a good concept of time, but I do remember it felt like forever. And finally, she did go and buy me some more Nintendo controllers, because she realized that was the best way to keep me out of her hair. So I would just be, you know, locked up in my bedroom playing Nintendo all day. All through my childhood, I've always had a Nintendo in my house, and I remember after the Super Nintendo came out, we didn't get it till it went on sale. But when we finally did get it, man, you know, it was pretty badass. And you know, through my teenage years, I remember my dad wasn't around much.
All right, it's time to turn the games off.
Actually, he wasn't around at all. But one year, I don't know why, but he had sent me his used Nintendo 64 through the mail, so he thought he was doing me a favor. You could have been there, Dad. I mean, Super Mario 64 wasn't a substitute for having a father, but yeah, Super Mario 64 was actually pretty dope. So I played Nintendo 64 for a couple years, ran through some good games, Jet Force Gemini, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask, Super Mario Bros. 64. I wasn't really a big fan of Turok or GoldenEye or Banjo-Kazooie. So the story about how I got my PS2 is actually kind of fucked up. So I hadn't seen my dad in about 5 or 6 years. So when I was about 17, he actually came back into my life. He had come down to visit because his sick mom lived in a couple towns over, so he stopped in at the house. And come to find out, he's homeless, living in his car. So I talked my mom into talking him into coming down and staying with us, because we had a spare bedroom. So he lived with us for a while, and 6 months later, my grandmother, his mother, had passed away. The guy at the funeral home had talked my dad and his sister into taking my grandmother's credit cards and going on a shopping spree and maxing them out. And you know, I was 17. I didn't really know what to think of it. I didn't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I mean, it's just a credit card, but thinking about it now, that was actually kind of fucked up, because we walked out of Walmart with like 3 PlayStation 2s, a whole bunch of games, a whole bunch of like other home decor and shit. And I was playing some fucking GTA 3 that night. So when I started working, you know, I was able to buy my own video games, and I would buy the new stuff coming out, all the Xbox stuff, the Nintendo GameCube stuff. One of my favorite series was always Final Fantasy and Knights of the Old Republic and Grand Theft Auto and The Legend of Zelda and stuff like that. So I always had to keep a broad spectrum of consoles, you know, at the house, because they don't make certain games for other systems. So you got to have a mix of both. But then it just started growing from there. I just started buying video games, started collecting, and I really didn't start like collecting until about 10 years ago. This is back before like the video game bubble started growing bigger. You could find video games at yard sales for like $1 or $2, flea markets for $1 or $2, 25 cents. I got a Castlevania Dracula X for only a fucking $1. You know, stuff like that. Stuff that's like $200 nowadays, man. This shit's ridiculous. So once my video game collection started growing massive, I actually took the spare bedroom in my house, which used to be an office. I took that and I remodeled it into a game room. So I got my nice TV, all my consoles, my shelving with all my video games alphabetized and everything. So I started posting a few pictures on Facebook and, you know, just sharing with my friends like, hey guys, this is what I've been up to. And my friend Tyler from high school had actually hit me up and said, hey man, I really like what you're doing right there. You've inspired me to start collecting video games. So a couple weeks went by, I didn't talk to him, and every now and then he dropped me a couple pictures like, hey look, I found this at a yard sale or a flea market or an estate sale or something, or I got this off my grandma. And then, you know, another couple months go by and he's starting to build up his own video game collection. So I got to talking to him. I said, you know what, we should start filming a reality show. I definitely like Pawn Stars and American Pickers and, you know, all those like reality, like antique style shows, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, we should do one which should be about video games. So we're gonna get in a fucking car and we're gonna go see what's going on.
My name's Tyler, I'm 28 years old and I'm from Ripley, Ohio. Far back as I can remember, I've had a game in my house, usually a Super Nintendo or a PlayStation. For the past year, I've been meeting people off Facebook and Craigslist, going to flea markets, going to thrift stores, going to variety shops, and I've been buying the shit out of some games.
Since we came up with the idea to film this show, I want to do a dry little test run, so I had him meet me at the Eastgate Mall. I haven't seen him since high school, so you know, it's kind of cool reconnecting with an old friend while doing a new project, and we both had some games that we wanted to swap with each other. It got to the point where like I would have some extra stuff or doubles, I would give them to him, and he would do the same thing for me. So I ended up giving him like a Sega Saturn controller that he needed, a whole stack of Sega Saturn games, some Dreamcast stuff. I gave him a couple, I think I gave him Killer Instinct, Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo. Those are kind of common, but I guess he didn't have them. I gave him a Star Fox also. He ended up giving me a Super Mario RPG, which I've been wanting, but I didn't want to pay the $60 that people charge. Some other common games. He gave me a PS1.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks kind of dusty. He's like, nah, I ain't got no video game shit. And I found that game. I was like, what the fuck is this?
So we ended up driving around and we found a little store in Newport, Kentucky called Games and More, and it's run by this dude named Marcus and his son. But we go in there and it's a pretty small little store, but he's got a lot of games on the shelf, a lot of accessories, peripherals.
Which one are you going for? I would go with the Advantage for real. I mean, the Max is cool too. I don't really see too many of those.
Yeah, if I'm gonna get one, it's probably gonna be good.
Yeah.
Because it looks nicer, you know what I mean?
Right.
Is this all?
Yeah, y'all think you can do any better on
We'll give you a better deal. This, I don't. Dad, what do you sell this? You sell this one. That's in pretty good shape. We got that one too. I'll take 5, 6 plus stacks. I'm taking off $10.
After bouncing some ideas off of Tyler, I decided to, you know, start looking on Craigslist and start setting up locations we could possibly film at. And I saw a guy posting ads for a video game store that he had just opened in Sharonville. So off camera, I decided to go down there just to scout it out, just to check it out, see what it's about. Because I don't want to go in there and get fucking butt hurt right away. So I walk in the guy's store and I introduce myself and tell him what I'm doing, you know, scouting out locations to possibly film a show. And I think it was fate that brought us together, because he's actually the owner and producer of an independent film company called Inner Demon Studios. So he knows a lot about camera work, editing programs, film and lighting, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And he sells fucking video games. I think I just met my new best friend. Don't miss your chance to pick up Real Life Arcade Season 1 on DVD. All 10 episodes of the first season, plus 2 exclusive episodes that can only be found on the DVD. Over 3 hours of content, extended footage, unused footage, bloopers, outtakes. Don't forget such classics as the Craigslist Sniper. Today, I'd like to introduce to you a little piece I'd like to call the Craigslist Sniper. Cheese! Don't forget about the antics with Dirty Games Damien.
Oh, you're good. Like, remember the blue one I gave you? Yeah.
Tyler's Game Room. He also has a Game & Watch for The Legend of Zelda. I'm definitely a big Zelda collector. So is he. I'm thinking about stealing this off of him. One of my personal favorites, Craigslist Chad.
Deal with it. Like I said, I try to be fair on my prices. I know what I kind of get the stuff for. Yeah. I know what I need to get out of it.
And all the antics with Jason from Games Over Cincinnati.
You know how to spot him from across the room? Just look for his neck.
And by the way, how you gonna make fun of my neck, you fat fuck?
Get your copy today, only $9.99 plus shipping and handling. PayPal ready. Insomniac_productions at yahoo.com for your copy today.
I'm Jason Sherlow. I own Games Over Cincinnati. We have this little tiny store. It's about 400 square feet. It's a tiny little thing. We started over from scratch. We started our first store in 2008. So this one is basically my collection, a little bit I can buy, you know, in between working and stuff like that.
So I bring old Dirty into the store and we start looking around.
Wes came into the store. My first impression was a little thug wannabe. He came in with a hat backwards, some guns, but he actually turned out to be a pretty cool dude. We ended up becoming pretty good friends, and now I'm doing this shit for him.
That'll work.
He brought in the dude, Dirty Games Damien.
We see a Sega Master System for sale. Not too bad of a price. I'm not looking for it. I don't think he's looking for it either, so we pass on that.
I think he bought the NES Satellite. I know he looked through the NES games. I don't think he picked one out then because he's got such a huge collection.
It ain't got the piece that plugs in?
Nope. He's just ready to do that.
So you gotta have the piece that goes in too. Right, yeah.
The piece online, I think it's selling for about $7 for the other piece.
Yeah. I usually, like, if I'll find a certain thing and then I'll worry about finding the other part later because you never know what you run into. Like we'll buy like game cases and stuff even though we don't have the game because we'll find them later. Found a couple NES games that I needed to pick up. I found Legend of Zelda Minish Cap for the Game Boy Advance.
You want this one? I'm gonna look for Oracle Age. Hey, now you gotta take it.
I found 8 Eyes. I found To the Earth for the NES. Just a couple commons, what I call fillers. Some burner games, you know what I'm saying? I think I'm gonna take all this.
Okay.
So I mean, you just tell me what you want for it, man. I'll pay it.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, he came in. He bought a couple NES games. I think he bought Zelda Minish Cap. About $37.45 with that.
Yeah. Cool. We're definitely gonna have to come back to this fucking store.
I opened my first store because I got kids, man. I got my son and my nephew, which is pretty much like my kid. And I was always buying them games, you know. I think back then they were like 40, 50, depending on what it was. And you trade them in and they'd give you like $1.50 for it. Everybody knows the GameStop crap, you know. We also did cards as well. Well, we used to go to a place called Games Galore, which I think he's out of business now. But anyway, I got tired of like just getting screwed over on all the games and all the cards, so we made a better way. Everybody seems to be happy all the time. We opened our first store, did really, really well. Just had a horrible location, so now we're here. Okay, I'm getting too long.
Just kind of, you know, say, hey, my name's Jason, my prices sure are low. You know what I'm saying?
What is it? What are you saying?
My prices sure are low.
Oh,
That's
that's
hilarious.
funny.
No.
Well, there it is, guys. Episode 18 is done. You're probably wondering why I decided to remake episode 1. This is called episode 1 Redo or Redux, whatever you want to call it. Basically, a couple weeks ago, I went back and I watched the very first episode, and I was horrified at how bad it is. I mean, a lot of people loved it, but after everything I know now as far as editing goes, looking back at it, it's not what I wanted it to be. So now it's brand new. It's remastered, remade. I used a lot of original footage that I didn't even end up using in the first episode, like the stuff with Games and More with that Marcus guy, and then I refilmed all the commentary for me and Jason. I don't talk to Tyler no more. He's no longer my friend. After he left the show, he deleted me on Facebook, so we don't really talk. So I just remastered the stuff that I already had filmed of him, increased the audio on it, and took care of some of the artifacts on his green screen stuff, and fixed the video quality pretty much. The shit's already a minute long, but we got episode 19 and 20 coming. Please leave some comments. Let me know what you think of this. This one is I'd call this one a Hail Mary episode. Like, this is one that I want to focus on because this was the original first start of the show, and it's remade. I try to come at it from a different angle, so I hope you guys liked it. Fuck off.